When I was very young, I developed some decently severe OCD. And the way I escaped that, ironically enough, was getting obsessed with the cause, which is your nervous system in the end. But the problem is we get stuck in fight or flight all the time. And then our bodies slowly break down because they're optimizing for immediate threats to our survival, which just aren't present. And you never have a chance to recover and rest. And so that's what the vagus nerve is about. That's what vagus nerve stimulation is about. And the company that I helped co-found is ZenBud. And we're out here trying to get people back control of their nervous system.
I am here today with a very interesting individual, Jon Hacker, who I had the pleasure of meeting just recently in California, and also was able to access the technology that we're going to talk about today that I think has a very big part of human health. And so, Jon, really looking forward to this because you got some golden nuggets to share. And could you give us a sort of a snapshot of where you came from, where you are right now, how this technology developed, and why it's so important for us to learn about this today?
For sure. So I'm a biomedical engineer by training. And the reason why I got into that in the first place was actually my obsession with the nervous system. When I was very young, I developed some decently severe OCD. And the way I escaped that, ironically enough, was getting obsessed with the cause, which is your nervous system in the end. And it's been a very long time studying it and trying to understand it and understand why people could be limited in that way, right? Like, how can our own brains chain us? And that was a very interesting journey, to be honest with you. I originally started more out on medtech side and played a little bit around in that world. And there's some limitations there, and there's a lot of good stuff there too. But over time, realized that there is a need to get this technology out to people now. People are suffering today. And medtech wasn't really oriented for that, at least not traditional medtech. And that was about when we found I think, really strong potential of the vagus nerve in general, especially for giving people back control over their stress response. And the 5-second version on this essentially is you can think of your vagus nerve as it's not really the off switch, but you can say it's almost the off switch for your stress system because you have two states that your body likes to be in, right? You have fight or flight. If you're trying to survive, if there's a threat in your environment, if a tiger is trying to eat you, I mean, we just talked about a scenario where you were probably still in fight or flight over that scenario for a long time now that we just talked about before this call. We don't have to share on that, if you don't want to. And then we have rest and digest, which is supposed to be the main state that you're in. But the problem is we get stuck in fight or flight all the time. And then our bodies slowly break down because they're optimizing for immediate threats to our survival, which just aren't present. And you never have a chance to recover and rest. And so that's what the vagus nerve is about. That's what vagus nerve stimulation is about. And the company that I helped co-found is ZenBud. And we're out here trying to get people back control of their nervous system. So that's a super short tidbit.
Right. So I noticed that right away, even the first time I put them on and these little buds go in your ears on the headphone, just within 20 minutes, I noticed quite a shift. It was interesting for me at that point because I'd just gone through some dental surgery in California that was incorrectly done. And it put my body into flight or fight. And I was also fighting an infection in my jaw because the dentist who did the surgery left some gauze inside my gum of my jaw that I didn't find out about until a week ago today. So I had to go back to the clinic a week ago and have everything removed and all opened up. And they discovered what the problem was because it was a massive deep level infection that took a couple of hours to scrape out without any anesthetic, which was absolute torture. But I was leading up to that. So even in that state with my body freaking out about this thing that I didn't even understand why I had this infection, because usually I'm super healthy on every level and could fight anything off. But even in that state, I noticed a difference to sitting there with the headsets on. So the vagus nerve, I think there's a ton of research done into the vagus nerve overall, especially going up through where it is and the TMJ and the brain and I mean, it is a massive master switch of some sort. So how long is the society or the medical or the naturopath area known about vagus nerve and how important it is?
So I'd say it's been at least over 20 years, at least on stimulation side, right? Because a lot of this, we've known about the physiology, right? We've known that it's existed there and it's had some interesting implications for our system for a very long time. More recently, and I say more recently, this is 20, 30 years, we started doing implants with the vagus nerve cervically oriented That's where a lot of this field started. That's where the medtech field started. And that's really focused around epilepsy and treatment resistant depression. After that, that's when the non invasive space started to really gain some traction because to go for an implant could be really difficult for people. And that's when a lot of electrical devices came on the scene, mostly still on the neck, trying to hit the same branch that the invasive implants did. The problem is that doing something non-invasively, invasively are very different. And in order to try to get engagement, you had to turn the intensity up really high. And that makes it really difficult for adherence and compliance. So a lot of people weren't comfortable with putting something that's shocking their neck on a daily basis. And that's where the industry was for a very long time. Only very recently has more research been done with ultrasound for neuromodulation in general. And we took that technology and we applied it to the auricular ear branch of the vagus nerve, which is a little bit more superficial. That means it's closer to the skin, so it's a little bit easier to stimulate. And it means that we can do lower energy, and it means we can use ultrasound to focus, stimulate that area, which leads to higher efficacy outcomes. And I'll say, I'm so sorry to hear about your infection in the dental surgery there, man. Like that's a large burden on your nervous system for sure over time. And I'm glad that they were able to take it out.
Yeah, I immediately felt better once they got it all scraped out and sewn up again. Like immediately felt better. And my body's been on repair ever since. It's going to take a few more weeks, maybe a few months to really get over it, but irrelevant. My body's able to rapidly heal. And interestingly enough, the other parts of the surgery did not get infected at all. Just that place where the gauze was and the bone got all infected. So, yeah, but anyway, getting back to the technology. So I have used and I have and own the ones that shock where you hold it here and then the one you wrap around your neck and you put it on there. And putting the ZenBuds on was a totally much better experience. It just felt like you say non-invasive. The other ones, you kind of got to find it and then you're literally zapping yourself and watching the monitor, on the app. And it is it's sort of one of those things that you'll do because you know it helps. And I think they do help, but this one is definitely way easier, way better. And I noticed more of a result. So you also mentioned epilepsy, which is interesting. So that's all tapped into the vagus nerve issue. Right?
It is. I will say that is in a lot of the medical devices, to be very clear, and a lot of the implantables where the field started. I will say that non-invasive stimulation is different in profile than invasive stimulation. So if you're putting an implant in, it's going to be slightly different than if you're doing something non-invasively, whether with the ZenBud or otherwise, right? I mean, and we're really passionate about making a frictionless user experience. When you mentioned your experience with electrical ones, that's what we saw. And that's part of the reason why we started this company. And the approach that we have is we want to give people more options that are a little bit easier to use. But when it comes to the medical side, like I personally believe, and it's one part of our philosophy as a company, that before we really talk about an indication super depth with our technology, we need to study it with our device. There seems to be a trend in the space to adopt studies from other technologies and modalities because we have our own studies that we've done and conducted with ultrasound neuromodulation, and they show very promising signals for a number of mental indications and other indications, but still early on that side. And we haven't had the chance, or frankly, the funding, because it's expensive to do your own studies on your technology, to do epilepsy as an indication yet. It's on the pipeline. We will eventually. We know there's promise because other devices have seen promise there, but it's not the same thing. That's critically important to understand about the space in general. It's something you have to be really careful of is when a lot of vagus nerve companies, when they're citing studies, will cite studies that they were never done with their device or with some other modality or some other device or even some other completely different technology because it's easier. And it costs $0 to do that. I mean, technically credibility, but most of these companies don't care. And it costs a lot of money to do your own studies and a lot of time and effort. Something to keep in mind.
Now, as far as heart rate variable monitors, because we can tell what system we're primarily in, is there any kind of measurement where you could do HRV and tell the difference before and after, or say a week later or a month later?
So we do take a look at immediate HRV changes with our technology, and we do see shifts in immediate HRV. And we get a lot of user reports about shifts in HRV over time. And HRV is a really cool metric for daily use, right? It's a really cool metric to get an understanding of how your nervous system is operating. It's in the name and variability, and though this is not what they're referring to, but it's very highly variable from person to person. And even shifts over time can be highly variable from person to person. It's not our favorite biomarker. Our favorite biomarker is actually, it's technically a secondary marker, is reaction time. That's what we like to use internally because that's just a lot more consistent. But you usually do see shifts, and we usually hear about people talking about the shifts that they see. And it's usually a very strong upward improvement.
Right. So just the non-invasive part or the ultrasound or the ease of use, I find to be extremely important because I don't want to have to do more than I would normally do. And just doing it once a day, what do you recommend for the amount of time And is it just once a day, pretty much?
So we've done testing on all our clinical testing that we do is 5 minutes once a day. That's what we suggest as a minimum required dose to get the effects that we talk about. Now you can do upwards, I would say, of 3 sessions of 30 minutes a day. And we've had people testing that for a while. And it seems safe and tolerable, right? Haven't been any adverse events reported from that for a long time now. So you can do more. And doing more than an hour, 30 minutes of stimulation a day is probably excessive. And frankly, doing an hour stimulation is probably more than enough to get your nervous system reset. We build the devices in a way that when you plug them in, it's plug and play. There's no required app. There's no required nonsense or gel or anything. You just put it on and you go, right? When you plug it in, it turns on the ultrasound. You'll have a little light on the back of the unit right here that turns on when you have it plugged in. And when the ultrasound's on, that light will turn off after 30 minutes. And that's when the ultrasound stops. But you can continue listening to music. And the reason we do that is so that you can use them as normal headphones after you stop your stimulation and for the people that use it to sleep, which is something we hear a lot about. And so when we were originally developing this, and we had people come back to us and saying, hey, I'm wearing these to sleep. And we're like, oh, we do not want them to be stimulating all night long. Let's put a timer in because 30 minutes is usually enough to get you to there. Yeah.
Right. So if they fall asleep with the monitor, it's going to shut off and then they've got the dose regardless.
Yep.
Now,
Exactly.
I would imagine that there's going to be variables with people who are maybe have been really long-term under sympathetic for too long and they're locked in, or their nervous system is really frazzled and they're maxed out. Maybe they had a nervous breakdown or who knows what. Or somebody who's just able to handle stress better and they can flip in and out of parasympathetic and sympathetic as needed. But really, I think it's important for all of us to daily get that reset and get that support because everybody's hammered from every direction, from text messaging to social media to emails to calls to action to whatever. And it seems like we're all getting, into that sympathetic far too much.
Well, our brains aren't adapted to the sort of information flow we work with right now, right? Our brains are adapted to short periods of extremely high intensity situations and long periods of recovery. That's why I talk about it that way as well. But we're in a situation right now where it depends on your situation, right? But because we have different stressors that are coming up like emails or social media or just interpersonal lives, which that is part of the human experience, right? But we're seeing these emails as tigers. They're not tigers. They're not trying to eat you. They're not going to kill you. But our brain can't tell the difference. So it is very important for us just to counteract the forces on being put on us by the technology that we use to help train and do that reset on your system daily. Because otherwise your body's going to think it's always threatened. And that's something we see a lot. And there's some variability. Some people are much better adapted to our current technology ecosystem than others. Let's be honest. But I do think it's an important part of everyone's routine to do something to help support their parasympathetic or that rest and digest system. Because there's a lot of sympathetic drivers right now. There's a ton of them.
Now, are there any things you can combine with it to enhance it or do not combine with it? Because
I would say don't drink alcohol and use any sort of parasympathetic driver in general, but that's just a personal recommendation. I mean, we haven't seen adverse events reported from that. What I would say is the stacking wise, which we're talking is it's stacking it with different approaches, right? It's really depending on what you want to do with that time, right? If you want to be doing meditation or box breathing or breathing exercises or humming, try to do an extra stack on your vagus nerve, go ahead and do it. And we have people reporting really great effects with that. When we do our clinical research and when we do our own research internally, it's primarily around ultrasound alone because we're validating the modality, right? But we know that doing breathing exercises is not going to hurt you. So I would say don't do anything you wouldn't normally do, but go ahead and add it to some routines that you're using right now. Because the biggest piece here is compliance more than anything else. It's actually using it daily. And if you're adding something to that adds extra friction to you, means you're not going to do that, then don't do that. And if it's something you're already doing in your daily routine, then add it to that because that can be very easy to do. That's at least our philosophy on the question.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. So combining and stacking and all that stuff has to be really carefully done. I think, because it's only a minimum 5 minutes and maybe 30 minutes, nice to chill out. You don't have to really worry about doing too many more things. Maybe you could spray some transdermal magnesium or something, chill out the muscles, or maybe put yourself in a position where the blood flow is going into your gut by laying on your back with your legs up. Something like that might be interesting. But otherwise, what you're trying to do is get the body to just shift into parasympathetic out of the sympathetic mode and chill, right?
Yeah. And to strengthen that parasympathetic response over time by getting it there. Like that's all through Hebbian learning, same concept. It's not the same concept, but you can think of it kind of like building up muscle over time, right? Or lifting weights. It's important for you to get those reps in. And we do that by getting in there and not only showing you what that feels like for you, but helping you strengthen that. So eventually you don't need to be doing this sort of thing on a daily basis. I will say that we are in a situation where we're strengthening our sympathetic muscles on a daily basis just by existing in our environment. So it might not be a bad idea to keep that training up.
So the ZenBud
Mhm.
itself, the technology, is there any white papers or any kind of research that you have that references the benefits or the science behind it all?
Of course. We have a number of peer reviewed and published studies at this point in time. Most of our research is actually independent oriented. So we go to third party institutions. We either give them ZenBuds or they want full diversion. So they'll actually buy them from us, which is always awesome. And they'll run research studies. We have some really good research that was published in December of last year around a couple of different mental health indications. To be clear, it's not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, prevent any of these diseases or disorders. But we have had seen research on, we saw really strong results with anxiety, with depression, and actually with PTSD in that study. And we looked at sleep as well. And we're talking very high remission rates based on the study parameters there. Now, again, that is something that we were focusing on. We were recruiting from a population that had moderate anxiety and what they were actually reporting. And I do want to make clear, like, this is not a medical device at this time, but we are seeing some really strong directional improvements across these diseases and disorders. And as we continue to build out over time, we will continue to build out the data sets around those. Otherwise, we see some really strong improvements in how your body's responding to its environment. That's part of the reason why the reaction time research is so compelling, at least from a scientific perspective. To see a direct difference in how your body is able to respond to stimuli is an incredible difference on a day-to-day basis. And that sort of stuff compounds quite nicely. And it actually kind of shows how much sympathetic shifted we are as a society, that we see very consistent 20 millisecond improvement across the board. But that's its own thing. And we can go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, the one thing I noticed about the autonomic nervous system that if you get stuck in sympathetic for too long, it's like slowly revving up the engine more and more and more and more and more until it's kind of like redlined if it gets bad enough. And then if something stressful comes at that point, you're going to get a major reaction from that individual, and it's not going to be good. So I think that happens a lot. So getting that engine revved down again, so it can rev up and rev down and go back and forth much more efficiently is the goal for all of us.
It's really hard to do maintenance at 100 miles per hour.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like renovating your house when it's burning down, you don't do that.
Yeah. No, 100%. Put out the fires first, slow down the car, then you can fill it with gas and you can make sure everything's working properly. It's really hard to slow down, man. Like, to be honest with you, like, I'm definitely there. Like, my nervous system is very sympathetic to nervous system naturally. It's kind of, I guess it makes sense that this became a big focus of mine, given it's something that I have needed to deal with quite a bit. So I get it can be very like alluring almost to always be in that hyperactive state, but it wears you down over time and you do need time to recover. And I definitely think it's incredibly important for us to train our ability to recover too. And it's not something that we're ever taught. It's not something you're ever like shown how to do. Not really. Like, if you're lucky enough to have people in your life that can guide you on that journey, it can be a lot easier. But in the end, we have to figure out the ways that we can do that for ourselves. And tools like this are simply meant to support that journey, right? You can't substitute for the own work that you have to do on yourself at the same time. But we can help give you something a little bit larger than a spoon to dig out the mountain. Maybe we can give you a shovel. That's all.
Right. And being in sympathetic mode is a very, very good thing. If you're having fun, you're in high activities, you're laughing, or you're getting your jobs done for the day that need to be getting done. And then the parasympathetic is the restoration to recharge to be able to get out there and do that again, because we're always going back and forth. So finding that equilibrium between the two, a lot of people call it sympathetic stress. I don't do that. I think you could be stressed if you're in either system for too long.
Yeah, no, we've seen people that are and because it's someone that's sympathetic oriented, it's like conceptualizing it was difficult at first, but we have seen people that are sitting parasympathetic too long too. And a lot of times they'll know who they are, and there's other things we suggest that they do. But being able to balance between your states, I think, is it's like one of the biggest value unlocks you can have, right? Because if you can move between them as needed, and if you can recover as needed when you decide you need to, so you getting back control, I think that's where all of this leads to. That's the whole goal of our I think anyone that's focused on the wearing out of the nervous system over time, not even necessarily stress, but that wear and tear over time should be focused on the ability to shift states because that seems to be one of the core issues.
Right. Yeah, this is one of the master keys for sure. You got all these thousands of keys out there that remedy all these symptoms, but when you actually remove the problem itself, you no longer need those keys. You have a key that sorts that thing out. And like you said, getting an equilibrium, being able to shift, go back and forth smoothly, rev the engine up, get the job done, rev it down, idle it, get it maintained, restored, digest your food, let your brain, recharge. Do all those things is a critical piece. And I think this age needs it more than ever, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And it's something that the kind of cool thing about the device is I could plug it in my phone and put on some 432 hertz healing, relaxed music as well. I'm not going to play some, stimulating music.
Some people do play heavy metal with the Zen, but I mean, like it's up to them. I mean, I've seen it happen.
Definitely. But I think stacking the right music is probably wise.
Yes.
Because they're going to, and I don't want to be releasing a whole bunch of dopamine either. I wanted like being chill, conserve the dopamine, and just, people who are getting older, they need it more than ever because they got to chill out. You're either getting more stressed or less stressed as you get over. Which would you like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like all systems tend to wear out over time. That's base reality. And we can do a lot of things to repair those systems. But this is one of those systems that requires a lot of attention for sure. And as it deserves to have, because it is essence, it controls a lot of how you're able to see reality. If you're in a very highly sympathetic state all the time and you have that wear and tear build up, you're going to see things as very stressful, even when they may or not be to you. And if you're in a parasympathetic state all the time too, you might not see certain things as stressful, even if they probably should be. So there is a balance there. And the goal of tools like this, and this tool as well, is help you get that balance in a way that's just as least inconvenient as possible. It's still going to be better if you have the capability to go on a 10-year meditation retreat. That would be amazing. I'd say do that. Maybe do that in addition, right? But we're building tools that are meant to help people get that control in their lives without additional burden and without having to put gel or shock yourself. And like that's the mandate of this company. That's everything we're doing.
Yeah, and there's a whole affordability thing. This is like super affordable, and it's an investment that people are going to get a major return on because you can't even put a price value on having a life of equilibrium instead of the opposite. And so the devices themselves, what is the life expectancy and warranty and things like that on them?
For sure. There's a 1-year manufacturing warranty. Well, first off, it is MSRP $459. That is the top line price. We have a 1-year manufacturing warranty with options to extend that out to a 3-year manufacturing warranty, depending on what people want to do. We also have a 90-day return for any reason policy because we want people to try it. And if it's not helping them, send it back, right? Like if it's not helping you, just send it back. And that's part of the reason why we implemented that. Most people don't, partly because it's most of the people that are buying these units right now are people that really need them, which is, I think that's a good thing. It means we're doing good in the world. Okay. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I mean we're a small team, FYI. So, I mean, like, if there's ever a problem, just send us an email.
Yeah, that's cool. So the extended warranty plus the 90-day return. And I think the return rate should be like 0 because people are going to love this. This worthy investment, definitely. And as far as availability, is there any lead time? Do you have stock for people if they want to get one?
We do have stock available for people to get one. We're actually launching these today, technically. So they just went live on the website for the Series 2. We'll be doing the full official launch at Beyond Biohacking next week. So it's May right now. So by the time this airs, it should be available. And yeah, we have decent availability on these, and we build them all in the United States, actually in upstate New York, which is close to where you are, Ian, in lovely Toronto. So it's like just a couple hours over the lake if we ever want to visit. You're welcome by Rochester, by the way, if you'd like to come through.
Yeah, well, if I get in my boat and drive straight from Coburg, it's 45 miles straight across the lake to Rochester. And I haven't made that trip yet, but I'm going to maybe do that this summer because it'd just be a fun thing and get on the radio and talk to customs before we get there.
I love it, man. Come on over. I mean, like if you want to have a not healthy food, we have garbage plates over here. That's what the Rochester is known for. We're trying to change that. We're trying to make Rochester known more for health. But no, so our whole goal in this is to give people the opportunity to get back control. We've built out our system in a way that frankly is like there are people that charge a lot more than we do to try to do the same thing, but we want this to be accessible. And that's the same reason why we have the 90-day policy too. And yeah, I mean, I help monitor the email inbox. So folks have questions, they can always send us an email. And you're always welcome to visit zenbud.health.
Is there any kind of community around this where you have people interacting who are using the device?
We're working on building that out. If you have any ideas on that, Ian, let me know, because we want to give people more opportunities to talk with other users of the ZenBud device. We do have an email list where we send out content, but we're actually working on building out a community now.
Yeah, we found out that, school is a good place to go and set something up, and people can definitely get in there and have a weekly meeting and touch base, catch up. It's a good thing to do for sure. So that's great. Now, I definitely want all the people who we have in our community to learn about this and to experience it as well. And then I guess the best way is just we'll put links in the show notes. Is that right?
Yeah, no, 100%. We'll have a link. And if you're not set up, we can set you up with our program so that your community can also support you as well, Ian, and trying these out.
Yeah, definitely. It's just getting the word out is the main thing. And then having, is there an Instagram as well, or like any social media place where people can learn?
Yes. Check us out at ZenBud Health. We're pretty much on all platforms underneath that nomener tag. They call it tags. Yes.
So ZenBud Health and .com for the website, and
ZenBud.health for the website. ZenBud.health. We also have ZenBudHealth.com, but ZenBud.health is the technical base domain.
Right. All right. Perfect. So that's been really good. I mean, we've really covered the bases on this, and it's nice to keep it right around this time so people will not see a video too long,
100%,
and more likely to engage when they see the shorter videos. Sometimes we have to go longer because there's more, but really this is such a simple, clear and clean technology you guys have developed that we're able to just encapsulate it. The biggest thing right now for everyone is the only way you can know that this is true is to experience it yourself and just find out. And it's a no risk situation to do so, which is really cool. And is it available in Canada?
It is. We ship to Canada all the time, actually. Lovely DHL. That was a great thing figuring out. DHL or USPS. We give the option to the users. But anyways, go ahead.
All right. And what about other parts of the world?
So we do ship internationally right now. So you can pretty much get this no matter where you are at the moment. I qualify that. Certain countries, their customs are lovely. We're not bribing custom agents. That's just not how we do business. So if you are in one of those countries, you know where you are, you're going to have to work with us on it. But we're not,
Right. All right. Well, that's very cool. So let's, we'll have another touch base in a while and see how things develop and I'll see you at Beyond Biohacking. So by the time this publishes, we'll probably be there and enjoying some time and learning a lot. All right. Okay, John. Well, I appreciate the time you've invested here and sharing what you have. And everyone, definitely take advantage of this. And we will catch up to all of you very soon.